Welcome in to First Things First. I'm Sarah Kustok, along with Chris Broussard, Doug Gottlieb. We're filling in for Nick, Cris, and Jenna. Good morning, guys. How are we doing?
How are you?
Good.
I'm great. How
Good
you
night's
guys
sleep?
doing? So-so.
Okay.
We hope you all had a good night's
We'll
sleep.
make it work.
We're going to start with LeBron James. He suffered the first major injury in his career this season, straining his groin, which sidelined him for 18 games. Since that injury, the Lakers went from 4th in the West to 10th, and now, according to reports, the team is concerned that it could keep him from leading them to the playoffs. Chris, how worried should LeBron and the Lakers be about missing the postseason?
Well, sir, the first concern is his health, because if he's not healthy, they've got 25 games left. If he misses maybe even 5 just because of the slight margin for error, that could be the difference. We're only having this conversation because LeBron has been hurt. They were the 4th seed in the West. They're 22-17 with him and 6-12 without him. So if he's healthy, and I know they're concerned about his groin, and they should, because he hasn't looked like LeBron James. He's put up nice numbers, but he hasn't been as explosive for as long of a period as he typically has been. So it doesn't look like he's back 100%. So I understand why they're concerned about the groin, because that's what their playoff hopes hinge on.
Well, obviously, it hinges on him being healthy. Right. I think they need Lonzo Ball back healthy. Remember, a couple of those games, Kyle Kuzma missed as well. But when somebody says we're concerned about an injury that you had sustained that you felt like you're back from, and you might have lost a bit of your explosiveness, I actually think it's more troubling if you're a Laker fan or if you're a Laker executive that maybe he just doesn't have that explosiveness, right? Like, you'd think 18 games, and I know groins are tricky. It's just like a pulled hamstring, where you think you're back, and then all of a sudden you run, and it feels like you get shot in the back of the leg. Once you get into your 30s, that happens to all of us, because we're all former athletes here. But when the Lakers are starting to say, well, he's not as explosive as we remember him, or maybe he should be, maybe it's because LeBron James, this is LeBron James 2.3.0, in that he's a better shot maker. He can start to win more with his mind than he can with his body. But that ability to just explode past inferior players might be gone, because he's had plenty of time to rehab, where you would think he would have that burst when he came back. And he does look different. He does look slower. He does look more like a below-the-rim player.
How much factors into, though, because he came back, 5 games? He's averaging a triple-double still. How much is just getting into game condition? I mean, how much is it? Are we not putting enough importance on the fact that he needs to get back into game shape?
Well, yeah, because I think it's premature after 5 games to say he's not the same. Now, if people want to look at what he did before the injury and say, yeah, he was playing really well, but was that typical LeBron that we're used to? If they want to argue that, that's a different thing. But to pick on these 5 games and say this is evidence that he's not the same, that would be premature. So, yeah, he has to get back in rhythm with his teammates. As we talked about yesterday, Doug, they have to adjust to him. And Doug's right. They've been injured. Lonzo Ball's injury, we know he struggles offensively. But on the defensive end, he is huge for them.
Yes.
Like, their rankings, they're a top 10 defensive team with him.
Top 7 across the board in every
when
defense.
He's in there, right?
When they were all healthy.
Right.
They were an excellent defensive team. And part of it is LeBron is not the defensive player he used to be.
Right.
Rondo, it's more reputation now. Defensively.
Not to mention, Rondo missed 34 games.
And Rondo missed games as well. But I'm saying in terms of defense and how important he is. And Kyle Kuzma has been a swinging gate at times defensively as well. So, yes, we're sitting here going like, man, they really could use Lonzo Ball. And people look at the shooting numbers. You have to explain why he is important to what they do.
Their defense without him, quickly, their defensive rating without him is 118. To put that in perspective, Cleveland has the worst defense in the league. That's 114 is their rating. So they're playing far worse than the worst defensive team in the league when Lonzo Ball's not there.
And part of that is LeBron James is different than he used to be, because he used to be the magic elixir for everything on offense and on defense, and it's just not the same. Look, this is all par for the course when you're in your 30s. Not only
and your 16th season.
Yes, but for anybody. But yes, and he played 82 games last year. And maybe he managed it because he didn't practice last year. And so he's like, well, if I don't practice but I do play in games, it's the same number.
But he coasted last year too at times. I mean, they were
until we came out of the All-Star break.
Right.
And that's when he came back.
And he's had breaks. I've heard Nick point out before that he's taken, mental breaks before and missed games before. But once you get into your 30s now, the injuries happen more often and they last longer. And when you come back, it takes you longer to come back for them. So this is what you're going to get, not just for the remainder of this year, but the likelihood is it doesn't get better. It gets worse.
Well, as you said, that's what could be scary for Laker fans. Look at the guys that came in with him. Dwayne Wade, about to retire. Carmelo Anthony, nobody wants him. Chris Bosh, retired. You know, Kobe Bryant, his 16th year was the last year he made the playoffs. Now, he played, 3 or 4 more years, but never was in the playoffs. And that's when he had that Achilles injury, was at the end of his 16th year. And then he kind of battled with injuries the rest of his career. So this, look, LeBron's Superman.
You have to watch. Here's a number that Dusty gave me, which is great. You know, before he got hurt, 29% of his shots were from 3. Since he's been hurt, he's only been 5 games back, small sample size, but 41% of his shots from 3. Just settling instead of playing that downhill bully ball. I'm bigger, stronger, more athletic than you are. And it's obvious when you watch. You're like, man, something's missing. I just view it as it's the opposite of a compliment when somebody goes, well, maybe you're still hurt. Like, no, he's actually fine. This is just what LeBron looks like now.
Well, the good news is that he's so smart.
Yes.
He can adjust if he's willing. Because he talked about playing off the ball more this year and just hasn't. His instinct is to go get the ball. So his instincts may not let him change his game, but he's smart enough and has the skills enough where he could change his game, be more cerebral, and be just as effective.
I think he and the rest of this roster and everyone that was on the trading block was waiting just to get to this All-Star break to reset, recharge. But with that being said, 25 games remain.
But what about Atlanta? The Atlanta one, just like, I agree with you, but how do you throw out a stinker against Atlanta?
Quarter. Yeah. I mean, that's a game, if you are going to make the playoffs, that you need to win. So if the Lakers do, in fact, miss out on the postseason, how much of a failure would that be, or a hit to LeBron James' legacy, given these circumstances?
I think it's a disaster. I think it's an absolute disaster. And I understand, like, I've seen it. I mean, you're trying to contextualize to people who are in the East Coast who don't stay up late, right? America has turned off their TV sets because I just can't stay up late to watch LeBron on the West Coast. That's why the ratings are so down. But you had him as the MVP, and it was.
That's not happening.
Listen, no, it was trending in that direction. They were trending in the direction of making Chris Broussard look like Karnak. But it would be to go all in and to get LeBron James, and to be left with. You're at the mercy of the Pelicans to make a trade, or hopeful that you can get a free agent, and to not make the playoffs with LeBron James after making 8 straight finals in Miami and Cleveland. And I know the West is not as good as it's been. Like, I would be an abject disaster.
And that's what people aren't realizing. Look, it's better than the East. It's deeper than the East, but it's not what it was a few years ago. No. You have one elite team. That's it. Everybody else is very close. It'd be a huge failure. But I think how it happens is important. He's missed 18 games. They played well with him. If he gets hurt again and they miss it, it's going to be hard to put it on LeBron James when they played well with him. I think Lakers fans need to keep in context, this season was an experiment. What comes in the summer, that's key.
Who would have thought we would have been saying that the Clippers and Kings are the 2 teams that the Lakers and LeBron are chasing? To get
if we
the
could
playoffs?
just beat the Clippers, if we could just beat.
Do you think they will make? I know we
Clippers
said. What would it mean? Do you think they can? Do you think that they will make it?
I do. I think this is a good basketball team when they're healthy, and I think they're going to get healthy at just the right moment. I also think that after the Rockets game, you got 3 games: 2 against the Pelicans, 1 against the Mavericks. Right. Those are teams that are better off losing than they are winning. You want to call it tanking or playing your young players or whatever. We still don't know what if Anthony Davis is going to suit up for the Pelicans. So I would say if they don't win all 3 of those games, and then they got a game with the Suns, like 2 games after that, then you can start to hit the panic button, because it's really only the Kings that you're trying to leapfrog.
And you're playing the Kings and you're playing the Clippers twice.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and they should have beaten the Kings if not for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Right. Yeah. There are only 2 games out in the loss column. And as you said, you mentioned the Lakers schedule. They could be tied with these teams or ahead of them come March, because Sacramento's schedule, you got Golden State, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Milwaukee. That's their next 4 games. They could lose 3 of those or all 4 of those. The Clippers are 8-11 in their last month of basketball. They just traded their leading scorer, Tobias Harris, another starter, Avery Bradley. So I think both of those teams are coming back to the pack, and the Lakers you're right. If they lose to these bad teams that they have on their schedule, then maybe they're not going to make it. But they could be in the playoffs within 2 weeks.
Yeah. You slowed down in your 30s? We didn't slow down in our 30s.
I did not slow down in my 30s. I'm just saying. Most normal human beings slow down in their 30s.
Coming up, are the Giants trying to trade Odell Beckham Jr.? That's next on FS1. And you can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Nick Wright. No one should feel unsafe at home. Period. Fear has no place in a place like home. That's been Simply Safe's mission from day one. We cut out the middleman so you get award-winning protection at fair and honest prices. Simply Safe blankets your entire home with protection. Around-the-clock professional monitoring. Make sure police are on the way when you need them. Alarms that cry wolf? No thanks. Simply Safe's precision-engineered motion sensors detect the unique heat signature of humans, not pets. Simply Safe's glass break sensors are so precise, they can tell the difference between an intruder smashing a window and a plate breaking. The security sensors are so tiny, they blend in with your home so you won't notice them. This is security that is out of sight, but continues to give you a peaceful mind knowing you're protected. As more than 3 million Simply Safe customers already know, it feels good to fear less. So protect your home today. You'll get free shipping on any system order. Just visit simplysafe.com/FTF. That's simplysafe.com/FTF. To protect your home and family today, simplysafe.com/FTF.
We'll get to Odell Beckham in a second, but first, college basketball, Wisconsin, Illinois. Khalil Iverson runs the floor. Nice putback.
Like another Iverson on that one. Is that going too far?
It's a little too far.
Yeah.
A little different body size.
A little bit.
Nice,
Little bit.
though. It's nice.
Little bit. Good win. Illini. They've turned around under Brad Underwood. Nearly had a huge win for him.
Next, Virginia Tech. Ahmed Hill steps in front of the pass, goes coast to coast, dunk at the other end,
nice.
shooting the gaps.
We're not showing Virginia winning. We're showing Virginia Tech dunking. Okay.
We're showing highlights.
Well, listen, I'm okay with it.
Really
Virginia
good
can be
play.
so boring, I'd rather watch the other team dunk.
And finally, from All-Star Weekend, Jay Clark, the jumper. This is an acrobatic dunk. Wow. What's happening? Ooh,
Nice.
he should have been in the dunk contest.
Nice.
You actually have to be able to play basketball to be in the NBA dunk contest.
Moving on.
Sorry, there's Haterade in this mug.
Well, a lot of you know the
Moving
best
on.
dunkers are in the NBA. You know that.
Odell Beckham. Reports are that the Giants were aggressively shopping him last offseason. That was until the Patriots came calling, and then they pulled their star wideout off the market. Remember, the Giants signed Odell to a 5-year extension last summer. Doug, should the Giants still look to deal Odell?
I love this story. This is like one of my favorite stories of all time. Like, man, let's see what the market can have. And all of a sudden, you get a call from Bill Belichick. Like, so you're thinking about dumping Odell Beckham Jr.? Like, no. Who told you that? We love Odell Beckham Jr. Like, dude, Belichick called. We're missing something. You're missing something. I mean, this is a disastrous story for the New York Giants. I mean, they give him a contract after 3 months of good behavior, and then the second the contract is signed, he goes back to being the exact same guy he was, only now empowered by this huge contract that you want to get rid of him. Just the steps of errors from taking Saquon Barkley instead of getting your future quarterback to signing Odell Beckham Jr. when you didn't have to. You could have let him play out the season and see if he was really a changed man, to the fact that now they're still kind of stuck in what do we do quarterback-wise? What do we do with OBJ? And then this story comes out that you legitimately wanted to move him. And then I hear Jay Glazer in his mailbag make a bold prediction.
That's what started this whole thing.
Makes a bold prediction that he'll be moved. And as we know, like Jay Glazer, when he talks, like E.F. Hutton, people listen. So I think this looks like a clown show in New York. That, wait, you were going to trade him, but because Belichick was interested, you didn't want to? That's because that system, that program is run the way it's supposed to be run, where you get in line. If not, you're gone. That's it. Period. End of story. He never would have gotten that big contract from the Patriots. He's incredibly talented, but it's hard to win with him because of all the other stuff he brings with him.
But here's the thing. What has he done? You said it's back to the old Odell. We know that he had the interview with Lil Wayne early in the season. which, okay, you know, everybody knows Eli is a problem. That's their biggest problem. You said it. They should have drafted a quarterback. Eli's 38. He's not the same. He's not able to utilize Odell. Outside of that, now maybe Jay knows that there's stuff going on in the locker room.
Onside kick. He was on the hands team. Chance to win a game, and he did the business decision and got out of the way. I mean, that's what this is about. You can't.
At that point, it was a smart thing to do for that team. No, it's not. For that team?
No, it's not.
Where's that team going?
They weren't trying.
Okay, you're gonna put that play over all the great things he did this season?
Yes.
He threw 2 touchdown passes. That's not even to mention how great he was as a receiver.
He doesn't get paid to throw touchdown passes. He gets
paid.
Then
don't have him throw the ball.
Okay,
when he throws it, he threw it well. All I'm saying is he doesn't get paid to be on the onside kick team either.
Yes, he does.
He gets paid to be a receiver. That's the one problem you have with him, that he made a business decision in a year where we have no chance to make the playoffs?
No, wait.
He should have made a business decision.
No, he should not have.
He should have.
Okay,
Would it be better to get hurt in a season where your season's lost and maybe you're hurt for the upcoming season?
What's the best thing about Odell Beckham Jr.?
His talent, his ability.
What specific talent does he have that we are all in awe of, that we watch pregame?
He's a great receiver.
You have an onside kick, dude. This is a team football game, and you're on the hands team, and the ball's coming your way.
That's your one thing. That's him returning to the old Odell?
It embodies the problem with Odell Beckham Jr. is that Odell Beckham Jr. is about Odell Beckham Jr.
Many receivers are.
Huh?
Why did New England want him then?
Because he's super talented and they're dumpster divers. The same reason they always are. And who knows if they wanted him or they just want to make a call. Let's see what we can.
That position.
They
would be.
And they're terrible wide receivers. And they won a Super Bowl without anybody good outside the numbers.
I get it, but he would be tremendous.
Of course he would.
And my point is, I'm not saying he's perfect. But if last season he really wasn't, he's not the problem. If they get a quarterback, if they draft Dwayne Haskins and he's good,
yes,
they've got Evan Ingram at tight end, Odell Beckham Jr. at receiver, Saquon Barkley at running back. I agree with you. I think that was a mistake, but he's still great. If you have those three and a good quarterback, you'd be hard-pressed to find another team with a better trio of skill positions than those guys.
I understand, but we've seen this from the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you have great skill position guys, you don't have necessarily a football team. Remember, they shut him down. They shut him down at the end of the season. He hasn't played every year.
What do you think the Giants should do? Do you think they should be looking to move him?
I would love to move him. The problem is now you're going to take a major cap hit, right? Now, because you signed this deal. He's a freak talent, okay? He is an absolute freak talent. He's special. But they got better the less they went to him last year. They just did. And they started to win football games.
With going to him or not.
I understand, but they started to win football games the less they looked for him. And I'm not disputing that they have an Eli problem. That's their number one problem that they have. And that they can't, for whatever reason, they just can't quit Eli Manning. They can't move on there because they're the first family in football. And they have to fix the offensive line. They have to fix the defense. But look, football is, there's no better embodiment for the team game than watching the New England Patriots with the guys, you can't even name their wide receivers, right? Like, Julian Edelman's their slot wide receiver. Outside the numbers, you're going with Philip Dorsett or Chris Hogan. Neither strike fear into your heart. But you can win football games. Why? Because they do their job. And when you're on the hands team and everybody shows up to watch you catch balls before the game and you have the greatest catch in football, even though Julio Jones' Super Bowl catch before the collapse was actually a better catch, nonetheless, if you're known as having the best hands in the NFL, that when you're on the hands team and a ball is coming your way and you've got guys in front of you that are designed to block the other team, you go get the ball. He's about himself, not about winning. And if the Giants want to win, they should get rid of Odell Beckham Jr.
They should not trade him. You don't blame losing on a wide receiver. Okay, Julio Jones, is he great? Did they make the playoffs? No. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, are they great? Yes. Did they make the playoffs? No. Receivers make the playoffs when you either have a great quarterback with you or the team around you is great. They're an accessory. And if you get a great quarterback, Odell Beckham will be great for you. I just don't think they should trade him. And I don't think he was that bad of a problem last year. Again, the Lil Wayne interview, I think people probably made too much out of that. We know, should you go on there at national TV and say that about your quarterback? Okay, no. But compared to what a lot of receivers are doing,
name them.
Antonio Brown.
And that's why he's going to be gone.
Well, we'll see.
Listen,
the owner wants to meet with him. I think the owner would like to keep him.
Well, that's because of the cap hit. If it wasn't going to be a $20 million cap hit, he'd be gone yesterday.
There are a lot of receivers historically. To date, Randy Moss was a problem. Randy Moss had an attitude.
When he was on bad teams, he was a bad team.
Do you think Odell would be different with a different organization or in a different culture?
Yes, absolutely, because he wouldn't be. Look, what we know a quarter of what really goes on.
Well, that's why, look, like you said, Jay Glazer's as plugged in as they get, and maybe there's stuff going on inside that organization that we don't know about, which will lead them to trade him. I'm just saying, from what we know, what we saw last season, I would not trade him.
Well, and remember, Dave Gettleman has a history of this. You go back to when he's in Carolina, he had Steve Smith, who's as talented a wide receiver and as competitive a guy as possible. They get rid of Steve Smith, they go to a Super Bowl. So there's precedent for this, even with their general manager. But that's really my point, is like, look, we know a fraction of it. We can only see the snippets we see on Sunday and then when they're on local radio or they're conducting interviews. Even if they have him under this new contract and you have Saquon Barkley, you got Evan Ingram, and you got Sterling Shepard, the thought should be all we need is a quarterback and fix some other things. But when they're talking about moving on from Odell Beckham Jr., it tells you all you need to know. He's a pain in the ass that keeps you from winning and doesn't help you.
I mean, Jay made a bold prediction. And like you said, I don't know if that was based on his reporting or if he just wanted to make a bold prediction.
But
he's plugged in. I'm not questioning Jay Glazer.
I'm not either.
I'm just saying there haven't been other reports that the Giants are looking to move him. I mean, since, before the season.
Yeah, true. Okay, but Schefter thought he'd be moved last offseason, and now you got Jay Glazer. And, like, Jay Glazer, I'm not saying he bats 1,000, but it feels that way. It really feels like Jay Glazer goes to 1,000.
All right. We're moving on from Odell for the moment. Coming up, could KD and KYRIE already be planning to join forces? That's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First, and we are going viral. Anthony Davis said all 29 teams are on his list this offseason as he wants a trade. If you are looking for the best way to win him over, make a custom pancake that looks just like his face. What do you think? Wow, that's really good.
That's incredible.
Those look good. Who is it?
Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Antonio Brown got a full fur coat. Bold. Strong.
Incredible.
They got a little
fur coat?
Butter and syrup on it? No, I don't. I have coats that have a little fur around the collar, fake fur, faux fur, but no real fur.
I'm not mad. I'm impressed. No, I do not. I just want to make sure.
I've got about
You had to double check?
That have fur?
You could pull it.
Real fur?
3 full fur coats.
You could pull that off, CB.
If you believe that.
Time for some stories to start your morning. Lincoln Riley had high praise for his former quarterback, saying Kyler Murray has kind of a Barry Sanders effect. Doug, is this fair praise?
Actually, look, I'm an Oklahoma State guy. You don't normally you're like, keep Barry Sanders' name out of your mouth. On the other hand, there are some similarities there now. Remember, Barry Sanders was only a starter for 1 year at Oklahoma State. He's a backup to the Terminator, Thurman Thomas, right? So how about that backfield? Right. It's an expensive backfield back in the day. Anyway, yeah, he has. The best parallel I've heard is Doug Flutie with Mike Vick's athleticism. That's probably more who I think of him as, but he is that type of explosive. He does make people miss. Baker Mayfield told me at the Super Bowl on my radio show that he thinks he'll run a 4.2 40. So I can't wait. 4.2. And he said yesterday, the last time I ran a 40, I ran a 4.3, and I think I'm faster than I was back then. So yeah, I don't think it's a crazy. It's a crazy. He's not. He doesn't put you on skates like Barry Sanders does, but he is that kind of.
And he's not a running back. I mean, but what Lincoln Murray meant was he's elusive. He can avoid the big shot, which will help him as a quarterback because obviously he's not going to run as much as a Barry Sanders or a running back. But when he does run and he doesn't slide, when he maybe needs to get that extra yard, if he can brace himself, move his body at a certain angle, and avoid the really clean shot, that'll help him well, especially at his size.
I will warn you, when you get to the NFL, you don't get faster. Everybody else does.
You could see it with Lamar Jackson.
Yes, he ran away from everybody in college.
To the NFL, Matt LaFleur has a big task ahead of him, bonding with quarterback Aaron Rodgers. The Packers coach reportedly plans to hit Rodgers from all angles this offseason. Cris, how much pressure is on Aaron Rodgers after a tumultuous 2018?
He didn't have a great year, so he's missed the playoffs the last 2 years. We know he was injured, of course, but you look at his numbers. Everybody talked about Tom Brady's numbers going down. his numbers were a tad bit better, depending on how you look at him, than Aaron Rodgers. So I do think there's some pressure on Aaron. He's starting to get some criticism, which he's never really gotten in the past. Why aren't you winning more? Are you really the best guy we've ever seen throw the football? I think with Matt LaFleur, clearly Rodgers was bothered by a lot of the play calling and the game planning under Mike McCarthy. So if Matt LaFleur can really impress him and wow him with some of his schemes and some of his game plans and things like that, formations, then I think Aaron will buy in if LaFleur can do that.
Oh, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be forced to buy in. This is kind of his legacy is at stake. How do you want, now you have the biggest contract we've ever seen. How do you want to play? I think he's motivated. The best thing I heard from Matt LaFleur is Aaron Rodgers wants to be coached. That's the big challenge for guys at this level. Do you want to be coached? Do you want to learn from somebody, work with somebody who comes in with a different perspective? I think he wants to be challenged. I'm excited to see what Aaron Rodgers has to do because think about how the season started. The big deficit to the Bears coming back from injury, comes back in the second half and wins. But after that, they collapsed.
You were expecting a huge year. He was my MVP pick for the NFL, too.
Speaking of coach-player relationships, back to the Lakers. Much has been made of the relationship between Luke Walton and LeBron James. Amid reports, James's associates haven't been happy with Walton as the head coach. But Luke told TMZ, quote, LeBron and I get along just fine. Cris, do you believe?
Well, there you go.
TMZ gets all the facts
Well, first of all, of course, what's Luke going to say when TMZ corners him? However, I do think face-to-face, man-to-man, they're fine. LeBron doesn't in Cleveland, in Miami, here with the Lakers. You know, he's moody sometimes. He may have bad body language, but he doesn't do the dirty work. Like, what are the reports? His associates, you find out as an organization what LeBron thinks by talking to his associates. And that's how the word gets out. It's not like LeBron was sitting down with David Griffin in Cleveland coming up with trade scenarios. Let's go after this guy. Or, you know, obviously he'll have maybe a different relationship with Magic to some degree. But I believe Luke. I'm sure when he and LeBron interact, that it's good.
I would agree with you, and based upon the people I know, they say the exact same thing, that LeBron tries to do what Luke wants. You know, he doesn't, the previous reports of him blowing off play calls, like, no, if he sees something, he does it. If not, he does what the coach wants. But I do think that the point you made is a good one, and the more we've seen LeBron operate, with the exception of when he bumped shoulder to shoulder with Eric Spoelstra in the first year, for the most part...
Wasn't that an accident?
Yeah, it was also an accident when he just happened to mention to Pat Riley, hey, you ever think about coming back and coaching, right? And then Pat Riley kind of stood up to him quietly and said, no.
That's what you need.
That's what you need. But that's not what this organization has done. And I think it's fascinating. Look, Michael Jordan pressed a lot of buttons. He did not like management. He did not like the trades they made. He lost it when they traded Charles.
He didn't like the triangle at first.
They didn't like the triangle. He didn't like Charles Oakley. You're not trading away Charles Oakley, my protector, for medical Bill Cartwright. Didn't like that. But he did not fracture the team in the way that LeBron has fractured this team, where they believed before injury that he was all in on them and they were all in on LeBron, that they were going to work kind of together to ultimately add a free agent. And then once the leak started, that you had the one where his associates told you he could play if it's the playoffs. Like, wait, he's not playing. He's not working out around us. The workout times kind of changed. That all of a sudden they started to think, wait, forget our interaction. Whatever he does behind the scenes is how he really feels, and there's a lack of trust there. And that's going to have to be earned, I think, by the young guys. He's going to have to earn some of their trust as a teammate and a friend in order to get them past this finish line and get them to the playoffs.
LeBron can get down if he doesn't think he has enough help. You know, it wasn't like that initially. When he was in Cleveland his first go-round, he was all in on that team. We know they didn't have great players around him, but they won 66, they won 61, and he sees we get bounced in the second or the third round of the playoffs. Then he starts getting superstars and winning championships. And so now he believes that I know what it takes to win a title, and if he doesn't think he has it, he can sulk. And that, I think when he was sitting there watching them play, and they're 6-12 without him, or 6-11, you know, he missed a game since he got back. I think he lost some faith in them. Not that that's right, because you as the leader, you can't sulk. And if you're the best player in the world, you have to feel like I can carry these guys. So he may have to fight some of his own instincts to be the leader that they need and not sulk for these last 25 games.
And Sarah, that honestly is a little bit about what a little bit of what Scottie Pippen was talking about, where look, Scottie Pippen, some of the shots sound a little bit more personal and that he's supporting Jordan or whatever.
Well,
but if you talk...
Scottie got calls when he said, like, LeBron was ahead of Jordan and stuff like that years ago.
Right, and then, like, look, you got Isaiah.
The narrative changed.
Well, then you got Isaiah, who's on Team LeBron because Jordan and him hate each other and Jordan kept him off the Dream Team, right? So there's some baggage there. But when you start to unpack it, this is what the guys around, this is what Kobe's people will talk about. This is what Jordan's people talk about. Like, dude, if it was Kobe, if it was LeBron, if it was Kobe, if it was Magic, if it was Jordan, they're going to fire every bullet in their gun, in their arsenal, in order to win. Whereas LeBron does have a tendency to shut it down, sometimes mid-season, to get a coach fired, to get a player moved.
Think about what he did last year. I mean, I think we often overlook with the tremendous, legendary playoff run we saw. He sulked all through January until we got to the trade deadline.
Yeah, he sulked, and I think he was coasting, too. Like, look, we talked about it earlier. 16th season, all those playoff games, all those Olympics, like, he's not what he used to be. You see it mainly on the defensive end, but he has to coast to be able to be as explosive offensively. But, yeah, some of it's mental as well.
But I think Luke gets a lot of the blame, given what has happened this season undeservedly.
Luke should not be, like, the thought that he would have been fired at the trade deadline or, you know, at the All-Star break was terrible. He is being made and will be made ultimately probably the scapegoat. For LeBron, for the front office, the young players.
Not getting enough shooting, no question.
Speaking of the offseason and what happens, we're going to move on to free agency talk. And two of the biggest targets this summer are KYRIE and KD. And rumors have it that they could join forces with the Knicks. These rumors have heated up after a behind-the-scenes video was released of them talking at the NBA All-Star Game. Cris, you buying that these two will team up with the Knicks?
Yeah, with Kyrie, I read his lips. Video. He was like, look, Kevin Knox, Dennis Smith Jr., we in the East, we gonna be nice. Boston won't be the same without me.
And he turns and winks at the camera phone that's right in front of him.
No, but it's very realistic. Look, I'm not saying Kyrie's out of Boston, but I do think a lot of it depends on how this season ends. If they go out in the second round, and they play, right now they're scheduled to play Milwaukee, you know, assuming the top seeds win. They will play Milwaukee in the second round, and I think Milwaukee, in my book, would be favored. So if they go out in the second round, is Kyrie or the other young players going to be able to accept that, hey, we went further last year in LeBron's East, even though it's better now, the still perception is it's wide open because LeBron's gone. We went farther last year. We beat Milwaukee last year. Now we have Kyrie. We lost to them. That could push him out the door. And while there are people, I agree with you, Doug, I don't think he's going to the Lakers. But there are people in the league that think it's either the Knicks or the Lakers. I think it would definitely be the Knicks. He's from the greater New York area in West Orange, New Jersey. And I don't think KD would go to New York by himself. I don't think he should go to New York by himself. And he and Kyrie are close, as we saw, but they're close friends as well. They will be talking. And here's the scary thing. If those two want to go to New York, and New York gets the first pick, or maybe even the second pick, you could offer that for Anthony Davis. Obviously, with Kyrie and KD, your timetable changes. You don't necessarily want to wait on a Zion Williamson to develop or whatever you think he needs to do. Maybe you just go get Anthony Davis, and you talk about a big three of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis in New York.
Money-wise, could they do that?
Oh, yeah, they could work it out. They could work it out.
You can do anything. You have to shed the rest of the team. And Dennis Smith Jr., by the way, goodbye.
Yeah, right.
enjoy New Orleans and
right.
some beignets. Because I don't think Dennis Smith Jr. and Kyrie work together anyway. I mean, truth be told. Could it happen? Yeah, but, boy, there's a lot of if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drinking, right? I mean, there's a lot that has to happen there. So it has to – those guys don't know. They don't know. One of the reasons I think Kevin Durant is a little bit tired of being asked about it is because, honestly, he's got no idea.
Right. And like you say, both of them.
I've got no idea because I don't know how this is going to end. We all assume the Golden State Warriors are going to win the championship, but the path to getting there, what's that like? Do they actually get there? What would happen if they lost? What would happen if they win? Like, there's a lot of scenarios. And then you have Boston. like, yeah, they could play Milwaukee, but all those teams, in the middle are separated by a game. They could very easily get to the Eastern Conference Finals again and get to the NBA Finals if they figure some things out. So, and how is he motivated if they do well? How is he motivated if they do poorly? And are you betting on David Fizdale, who everybody likes and was part of those Miami championship teams, but he ain't been the head coach and winning anything, right? It was before the collapse last year in Memphis, and now this year.
He had a nice little run that one year in Memphis. With what did he say on the?
Yeah,
take that
for data. Take that for data. Yeah, but then he also stopped getting along with Marcus Gasol, and that's why he lost his job.
Yeah.
And they start, right? And that's where they start. So, look, I like Fizz.
I think Fizz is a good coach.
Everybody thinks he's a good dude, and I think he's a pretty good coach. But you got Brad Stevens. You got kind of bird in the hand is better than one in the bush. So let's see if Brad Stevens impresses him in the postseason, where he's like, whoa, I'm in on Brad, because it's. Playoff Brad is like playoff Flacco. It's a little bit higher level than everybody else. Anybody who says they know right now, I believe is lying. They want their opinion heard, because those guys don't know. They may think it's a cool idea, but cool ideas and does it actually happen? There's a big gap between the two.
Even talk around the league. When you talk to GMs and executives for other teams, they're speculating, because nobody knows for sure what these guys are going to do. And as much as I said yesterday, I would love to see KD try to win 4 straight in Golden State, assuming they win this year, and then go to New York or something. But 4 straight is tough. There's a reason nobody's done it since Bill Russell, because not only the physical challenge of doing it, but mentally, the fatigue. And we've already seen tension between KD and Draymond Green. Does this group even want to come back together for a 4th run at a title? I don't know. So I think, though, Doug, I think I'm a little more, I guess, optimistic would be the word, that Kyrie and KD do end up in New York than you are.
I think it's also interesting that there was a story about the possibility of Jim Dolan selling the Knicks, which he shot down, because there is some feeling still in the NBA, even though he has nothing to do with basketball, right? One of the things he did a couple years ago was that's the mistake with Phil Jackson, when he's like, I'm hiring the best, let them run it, and Phil Jackson ran it into the ground yet again. But Jim Dolan has nothing to do with basketball, but he did he got into it with Charles Oakley, and that was ugly. And I think there is that sense where, do I want to go play and make Jim Dolan some more money, or do I not? The other part that I think is interesting is, I'm not sure I would trade Zion Williamson for Anthony Davis.
Really?
I mean, look.
If you had those two?
I have those two.
Oh.
Because Zion Williamson.
Because I wouldn't do it if I didn't. If I don't get a free agent, I'm not trading Zion for Anthony Davis.
Obviously not. No question. He's a meal ticket. They put $1 billion into that arena, and he's going to fill it every night. But if you think of who he really is, he's not LeBron James. What he is if you took Draymond Green and you gave him the athleticism of Blake Griffin early in his career, and then you gave him a little bit of Charles Barkley in his ability to kind of score in and around the post, and a little bit of LeBron's kind of some of his ball handling, but he's not LeBron James.
Great player.
LeBron James. That's what he could be. That's,
no question.
And in 2019 into 2020 and beyond, NBA basketball has changed. If you go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he would have had to go down a position. He would have had to be a 3 in the NBA. He's a 4-5. He's Draymond. He'll play 5 when you play small ball. He'll play 4 with your starting lineup. And to me, in addition to the fact that he's a highlight film and he plays both ends of the floor, don't get me wrong, Anthony Davis is a better player right now, but in terms of fit for those guys, you don't need anybody else who needs the basketball. Those two guys, you play with one ball, it's going to be I go, you go. And he already plays without the basketball with Duke. That's the great part about it. He doesn't have to relearn how to play off the ball. That's how he plays now. He'd be perfect with those two, plus he'd fill up the arena, plus he'd help you at the defensive end. I wouldn't trade the rights to Zion Williamson for Anthony Davis.
I would. I mean, look, you make a good point. Those are solid points, and Zion could win with those two. So maybe they wouldn't do it, but, man, Anthony Davis is only 25 himself.
I know, it's amazing.
And you already know what you're getting.
No, I know.
Right, because as much as I like Zion and you like him, and I haven't talked to one person in the NBA who hasn't said he's the consensus #1 pick, we still don't know for certain.
Yeah, we don't know if he can lose weight. We don't know how much he can play at that weight. We don't know what it looks like in the NBA range. No, that's all fair.
Kyrie grew up a Nets fan. Why didn't no one want to talk about these two coming to Brooklyn?
You know,
Come on.
I'll throw this out.
Give Brooklyn a little love. They could clear
Stop
2
it.
max spots.
Stop it.
Obviously, he's better than their guards, but they do have guard. Like, they would take Kyrie, obviously, over those guys. He could beat them out. But if I'm looking at that team as a free agent, I'm like, do I want to go there as a guard? You know, we need other pieces. I'm sorry about that, but
No, don't be sorry.
they're playing. They're
I
having a
like
great
Spencer
season.
Dinwiddie.
We'll keep going. Coming up, could LeBron's injury keep the Lakers out of the playoffs? That's ahead on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Denny Hamlin won his 2nd Daytona 500 on Sunday, becoming just the 12th driver in NASCAR history to win it twice. And he joins us now. Denny, thank you so much for coming to the studio. We certainly appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Well, forget to talk about the race. you had a league basketball game. You have a NASCAR league that you have at your house. First of all, that's a baller thing to say. Like, I got a basketball league at my house. Okay. But after winning the Daytona 500, you dropped 31 last night?
Yeah, it was a good night. Well, the first thing I did is pull up from about 32 feet. It was 5 seconds into the game to see if I was still hot, and I was still
And you
hot.
were.
Yeah.
So you hit a Steph Curry 3 to start? So call him out right now and ask who was guarding you last night, or who was trying to guard you last night?
Michael Fawley, he works for Joey Logano, so he got roasted.
That is fantastic.
So you are a Jordan Brand driver. And you know Michael personally. Have you ever played with him?
I've not played basketball with him. I've played quite a bit of golf with him, and everyone knows Jordan's golf stories. So, yeah, he's a competitive guy and a great friend. He actually brought his family down to Homestead, Miami, just 4 years ago. Brought them all down, stood in my pit box, hung out with me the entire day, kind of rooting on his friend for the championship. So it's just it's amazing.
In your phone, is it Michael Jordan, MJ?
MJ. Yeah.
That's got to, like, when you get a text, do you show people, like, see?
I mean, sometimes, but I mean, because it's,
MJ's showing that he has Denny Hamlin's number.
I know now. He's like, he's won the Daytona 500 2 times. He's my friend.
The guy got my phone number at a Hornets basketball game, and he's texting me throughout the entire game, and I just don't understand what's going on here. Like,
so do you know if Kemba's re-signing? Do you know that for us?
Unlikely.
Oh.
Wow.
See, breaking news.
Okay.
See, yes.
Take that to the bank.
I know. I wish we could talk about basketball this whole time, but we are going to get to your win. The 2nd time you won the Daytona 500, what was that like for you?
It's crazy. It somewhat validates the first, I guess. I mean, there's been a lot of great drivers that have won it just one time, but you look at the list that's got 2. It's just it's amazing, and it just means that you put yourself in position consistently to win it. And it was a great feeling for us, my entire team. We kind of have a new revamped team this year in a lot of different areas, so certainly happy about all that.
And Kyle and Eric finished 2 and 3 too. I mean, that's an amazing day. That's an amazing day.
Yeah, especially for Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, I've been with this organization my entire career, 14 years now. To have a 1-2-3 finish for a very emotional weekend for Joe Gibbs, it was pretty special.
Can you talk to us about that with JD, the loss of JD, just the significance that he meant to you, to your racing career, and just to Joe Gibbs Racing? Yeah,
it was so tough. I mean, we lost JD, about a month ago or so, to some brain illness. But Joe has just been one of those family businesses that he brought me on. JD actually was the one that found me at a local short track and told his dad that they needed to sign me. And he was my point of contact when Joe went back and coached for the 2nd stint at the Redskins. He was the guy running the race team. So, it was a tough month, having his funeral and everything. And then we get to the racetrack and they have a tribute for him on lap 11. And I'm driving JD's car. JD was my car owner. It was his number. I put JD's name over my door because my initials are James Dennis, and so I go ahead and I put JD's signature up there. So it was very special to win on a special weekend for him.
How different was winning this year than when you first won it in 2016?
This time it was just so slow. Everything happened so slow. The first time, we're in the midst of a long green flag run, so the laps are just clicking off. 3 to go, 2 to go, 1 to go, it's over. And we win in a photo finish, closest finish in history of the race. And then this year, there's massive wrecks, with 10 laps to go. We red flag it, so I'm sitting in the car and I know in my mind what playbook, what I need to do to win this race. Now, things aren't always going to work out the way you think, and the cars aren't going to be where you think they need to be, but I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, all right, just as long as I do this, I'll be fine. Another wreck happens, another red flag. we stop again. I'm thinking more a little bit about it. So everything's just happened a little bit slower so I could take it all in.
It's a little bit like freezing the kicker, right? I mean obviously there's cars there. What was that? Because that wreck, and part of it was our Fox crew did an amazing job capturing it, but you're in front of it. It's behind you. Yeah. Do you feel that? Do you sense that? Or do you have to be told that?
Well, it's interesting. We drive from behind us. The drafts that we get, so everyone's running wide open. So everyone's got the gas all the way down, not touching the brake. So whoever's in front's the one manipulating the air the best. So we get our runs from behind us. So I'm always looking behind me to put myself in the right position to go forward. So I see the wrecks happening as it's going on, and I just know that I need to be in the top 3 or 4 positions to avoid those wrecks, and it seems like I was always 1 or 2 spots ahead of it.
You mentioned the playbook. So what is the playbook? Like, what is it? So you're sitting there. There's 10 laps to go. What's the playbook?
My playbook.
Because you won there 9 times at the same racetrack.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I knew that I wanted the top lane on the restart, and when we had that option to take the top, I knew it because I'd failed the year before. I was on the I chose the bottom lane on the final restart, and I lost the race to Austin Dillon. So it took me losing a couple times to start to write a journal of, okay, this is what my book says. No matter what, no matter who's behind you, I need to take the top line, and it was successful.
We talk basketball. Can we talk football? You're a
Absolutely.
Washington fan?
Yes.
Is that because of your relationship with the Gibbs?
It is not.
family?
I grew up in Virginia. So oddly enough, 12 years old, I'm in an autograph line. I got my 1992 Super Bowl hat. I get Joe to sign it. And I tell him at the time, hey, I want to drive for you one day. And of course, I'm just some kid in line. It's the pat on the shoulder, kick in the rear. He's like, take a picture. Okay, next. Right. But that picture's in his office now. 12 years later, he signed me and been winning races.
What was the dirt track that JD found you?
I was at Hickory Motor Speedway, and I was just there. Reggie White was starting a diversity program with Joe Gibbs Racing. So I was there just breaking in the cars. They were buying my late model equipment. So they came up, and JD was like, wow, I know we're not looking for him, but he's pretty good. And so they signed me, and it took off from there.
Okay, so we heard about your hoops game last night. After the win, Steak and Shake?
Yeah, Joe started that in 1993 after his first Daytona 500. They won. They took the trophy, and back then he says he couldn't find Victory Lane. So he just grabbed the trophy and went to Steak and Shake with it. And they didn't have to do media and stuff back then. And so he says he in 2016 did the same thing. Of course, he did the media first, but then went to Steak and Shake, enjoyed it. And you can see him there heading up there. And I joined him, and the pit crew enjoyed it.
What's your order?
Well.
Did you?
I was after a race. I had quite the appetite after the race. I mean, we lose, between 8 and 13 pounds, to kind of depending on the race. But I was hungry, so I blew it out. I had a grilled cheese and I had a Reese Cup shake. I felt terrible for the next day, for sure.
It affected you. You dropped 31. You dropped 31 the next day in your league game. Yeah, I was terrible. I would have had 40 if not for that shake.
Any dunks?
No. If you can dunk, I'm not sure we're going to let you in.
I think we'll all be fine. You still can't dunk, though, right?
No.
No?
I used to be able to dunk, but I'm old now.
I'm not sure I buy that.
Well, I have to get video.
Denny used to be able to dunk.
Denny used to be able to dunk.
Yeah.
Denny, thank you so much for coming.
Shoot, I might have to about something to the table.
Congratulations. Careful. These two are going to try and get in on your
wet from 30 feet, first touch.
All right, we've got much more First Things First coming up right after this. Welcome back to First Things First. Yahoo NBA senior writer Vincent Goodwill joins us. Vince, good to see you.
Hey, great to be here, guys.
We're fellow Midwesterners.
Yeah, all of us. The 3 of us. Yeah.
Well, Chris, you're from everywhere.
I'm from everywhere, though. But mainly the Midwest. You were born in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
All right.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Wikipedia. Glad to have you. I didn't bring up all of our birthplaces. Much has been made of the relationship between Luke Walton and LeBron James. Amid reports, James's associates haven't been happy with Walton as the head coach. But Luke told TMZ, quote, LeBron and I get along just fine. Vince, do you believe Luke Walton?
I'm sure Luke believes he gets along with LeBron James, but, I mean, Chris, you've known this from covering LeBron his whole career and covering great players. they challenge their coaches, from Michael to Magic to Isaiah, Larry Bird, all these guys. They challenge their coaches to make them better. And I think Luke is in this terrible position where the team that he came in to coach is not the team that he's coaching. The level of expectations, whenever LeBron comes in at this advanced stage of his career, the expectations ratchet up, and they ratchet up quicker, and there's no more margin for error. And when a great player is no longer ascending, I think that is the toughest point to coach a great player, when his game can no longer overcompensate for where the coach lacks things. And I think that's where Luke is going to basically bear the unfair brunt of all this, probably at the end of the season.
So you're saying LeBron is not the same?
I'm saying we've seen the best of him. I'm saying we've seen.
Still going up.
He just doesn't. He just.
Right. He is on. LeBron James is on the decline.
Yes.
A very slow.
He could be plateauing.
Put like this: Halle Berry's on the decline, but she's still bad. You know, like we're splitting hairs here at this point.
No, but you're right. Jeff Van Gundy used to always say, or still probably does, the toughest time to coach a player is when it's a superstar in decline. Now, I don't think LeBron is. He's not the same. Defensively, he's not what he used to be. And even last year, when everybody was talking about, is this LeBron's best season, because offensively his numbers were through the roof, it wasn't his best season because defensively he was not the same player. I mean, he used to wreak havoc on the court defensively as well as offensively. So you're right. And you're right about Luke. Look, I do think their interpersonal relationship is fine, because as the reports are saying, LeBron's associates, that's how the team knows what LeBron is thinking, is what guys that work with him are saying. LeBron's not going up to the front office, hey, this, and that. So I'm sure his personal relationship with Luke is fine, but I'm glad Luke's getting this chance to finish up the season. I don't think he'll be there next year unless they make some great postseason run, but I'm glad he's getting this full 82.
But Vince, to your point, it's a really good one. Not only is it not the job he was hired necessarily to do, but it's not the team, it's not the management team. Like he's gonna catch all the heat for LeBron's been hurt, Kuz was hurt, Rondo's been hurt twice, Zoe's been hurt twice, right?
And then
the roster is flawed in its composition, right? Like there's a reason they got rid of Michael Beasley, but there's a reason Michael Beasley was in China, a couple years ago. Right. And Lance Stephenson's been on so many different teams. And anyone could look at this roster and say, boy, you're kind of missing the shooting thing, right? Like, to play with LeBron, you need shooters. To play in 2019, you need shooters. And yet, they didn't do it, and yet he's going to catch
Here's what it is. I think the worst thing for them was starting off fourth in the West. Like, right when LeBron got hurt, 20-9, fourth in the West, beating up Golden State on Christmas Day, then LeBron gets hurt. That ratcheted up the level of expectations again for this young team. Maybe Ball is ready. Maybe Kuzma is ready to be that second guy. And then all of a sudden, they have that terrible, 6-12 stretch or 6-11 stretch without LeBron. And all of a sudden, people are looking at Luke real funny in the light. And then we see LeBron doing these sort of slide things of, let me go stand next to Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson in the tunnel while we're losing a game. And it gives off the appearance that LeBron is management, which to some degree he is, and great players are going to be part of management. So I wonder about that.
Do you think, and Doug brought this up earlier in the show, when LeBron was in Miami and he at first was feeling out Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley was very definitive in saying, I'm not about to come back and coach. Eric Spoelstra is our head coach. You need to respect him as that. Do you think it makes a difference to LeBron, to his relationship, his perception of Luke Walton, that he was not hired by Magic and Rob, and that they have not come forth and really solidified their belief in him?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, Magic Johnson was at his door at 11:59. And you can't tell me that they didn't have a soup-to-nuts conversation about every facet of this organization, from the personnel to the coaching staff to the front office structure. LeBron, his talent demands that level of information that you're going to get if he's going to sign with you, and sign with you for 4 years, which gives you a chance to hire and fire coaches, to bring in players on short or long-term contracts, because you have the security of him being there. So, yeah, you know that Luke Walton was a topic of conversation. And I think Luke being in Golden State gave at least Magic and Pelinka a feeling that at least he could keep this thing sort of steady and level until they figured something out. Whether it's Brian Shaw or Jason Kidd or Mark Jackson or whoever it is, I think LeBron has reached this stage of his career now where he needs a coach whose stature sort of matches his.
Yeah, he needs a coach he respects. I mean, that's the bottom line. He's your best player. He's going to set the tone. He's got to respect the guy. He likes ex-players, and Luke's an ex-player, but he wasn't that
It's
dog.
different. It's different.
Right, like Ty Lue and Jay
I-
Kidd and guys like that.
I agree with, the hard thing in the NBA is, in order to own a locker room, you got to have won a championship. In order to win a championship, you have to own a room, right? It's a vicious cycle. Right. But you mean to tell me that Mark Jackson, who can't get a job in this league because nobody thinks he's a particularly good guy to work with, is as a coach. When he's a coach, when he's a commentator, it's different. Right. Those guys get that big chair, and all of a sudden things change. You mean to tell me like Mark Jackson or Jason Kidd, guys have been fired elsewhere and been replaced by people who have done better than they have, that they command more respect from LeBron James' eyes than Luke Walton?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Why not?
Because they haven't been good coaches.
Great players. Mark Jackson was a good coach. Good coach. I'm not saying he was great. He put the defensive philosophy in there at Golden State. They would still, to this day, credit him for that. Now, offensively, they were different, but they still were winning 50 games. And
the second he walked out the door, they became a championship team.
So Steve Kerr is great. I'm giving you that. But Steve Kerr put in that perfect offense. But Mark did a great job with that team. Yeah. Or a good job with that team.
He did a good job.
Second-round playoff team.
With Mark, it was that no one in the organization liked him. No one outside of some of the players liked him.
I agree with you. And the offense. But defensively, he did a good job with that team.
Yeah, because they were awful before.
He gave Steph and Clay, confidence in this league. I think Mark did a good job.
But I mean, there's a reason that Mark hasn't been hired by other people.
It's what you said.
And then Jason Kidd's gotten multiple opportunities, and I keep hearing Jason Kidd. So
I'm telling you,
I'm not saying that you're wrong. You're right. But it's like, wait, there has to be
LeBron.
somebody out there who's won something that commands LeBron's respect that makes sense, because none of these names jump out at me like, well, he's definitely better.
There's only 5 or 6 good coaches in the league anyway, and then there's 5 or 6 really good coaches, 5 or 6 bad coaches, and a bunch of dudes in the middle. And these dudes in the middle need a great player. And Eric Spoelstra was just a guy until 2012, and then he got made, and then he was respected, and now he's one of the good coaches in the league. A lot of times for these coaches, it takes that second job, that third job, to figure out how to navigate the interpersonal relationships.
The good one, though, is that you have to have somebody who management has their back, so that when LeBron James does push, you push back and says, no, he's our guy.
So, yeah, you should be able to do it.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.